So now that we have saved our coordinates at as a CSV file, we can go ahead and get out of Excel. I am going to just go ahead and save the changes. I think I've already saved them here. So I'll just hit save and it'll replace it as a CSV file. It's going to ask me again, do I want to keep using that format? And I do. So now we want to go back into our ARC project. So find the Lab 8 ARC project. Hopefully you just minimized it. If not, go ahead and open it up again. And we need to go into Catalog View. So I'm going to go up here to View, and I'm going to go to Catalog View. And if we open up our folder, if we saved it in the right spot, let's see here. I'm going to open up my project folder, and there's the Excel file that I saved that we're going to ignore, but here is the CSV file of the coordinates that we just created. So this stores that information we just created with the decimal degree version of our coordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click it, and if you don't have a map open, you can hit Add to New Map. If you do have a map already open like I do, you can just say Add to Map. And so if I go back into my map, all of a sudden, now I have this standalone table, because right now there's no spatial information stored with it, but I have this standalone table with these coordinates. So if I right-click this coordinates.csv file, and I go to Display XY Data, we can turn that information we typed into the spreadsheet, we can turn those into actual waypoints, or like 4 coordinates on the map, and that's how we're going to figure out how to digitize the file that we're looking at. I realize some of this won't make a lot of sense if you miss the entire Lab 8. So I could go back and, maybe I'll go back to Canvas here for just a second. So let's see here, here's the Dead Man Park, because I'm working on the Dead Man Park homework assignment portion of Lab 8. If I open up Dead Man Park, let's see if this map shows up or not. Still logged into student view, good. Maybe I'll download the file really quick, if I can. That's going fast enough. So what we're doing is Rocky's given us the coordinates for Dead Man Park. So if I zoom out here, we have management information about a bunch of different areas in this map. But effectively what we do is we have a picture just like this. We have a map with lines, but there's no spatial information tied to the map itself. However, in a quad, we know from spending all those times with Rocky's maps, in the corners here, or various points, it'll tell us what the different decimal degree, the degree minute second coordinates are here. So if we know what the coordinates, each of the 4 coordinates of this map are, we can use ArcPro and convert these into decimal degrees, which we just did in Microsoft Excel. Once we have these coordinates in Excel, we can take them back into ArcPro, and we know that if we're putting this map or a similar map that corresponds to the same area into ArcPro, we can use those to basically tie this whole map. We can tie it to a location on the Earth, and then we can start to kind of play with the different management units or different features that we see on the map. We can digitize them so that instead of just being little lines on the map or little different features on the map, they can be features in ArcGIS Pro that we can work with. So that's kind of what we're doing here, just as a quick flashback. So I'm going to go back into my Microsoft Remote Desktop. And so I went to my coordinates, I right-clicked and hit Display XY Data, and this geoprocessing table came up. So our input are going to be our input coordinates, so coordinates.csv. Our output, I'm going to change it to be coordinates DD for decimal degrees. And since when we created our table, we had the top of our decimal degree x coordinate, the top cell in that column, we put an X. In the top cell in the Y column, we put a Y. ArcGIS Pro was smart enough to know what we were talking about. And so it tuned in, it saw that XY, and was like, oh, this must be the XY coordinates we're dealing with. So we can go ahead and leave in this default transformation because it already knows, based on the information it's reading, it already knows what it's going to convert it into. So we can go ahead and hit run. And what we should get is a new feature over here on the left. That is our coordinates that are in decimal degrees. So now I have this coordinates DD feature. Now, you may remember from looking at that quad, when we were looking at that quad in Canvas, this is a rectangle because this is projected. Right now, this is in geographic coordinate system. It turned it into geographic coordinate system coordinates, so they're currently unprojected. We pretty much never want to deal with unprojected information for most of the rest of this semester, I would say. So what we're going to want to do is project these coordinates from unprojected geographic coordinate system. We're going to want to put them into UTM zone. And we can probably look, forget how to zoom out. There we go. If I zoom out here, we're in Colorado. I can just go ahead and tell you that because I've done this lab before. This is Wyoming right up here. So our UTM zone is going to be zone 13, 13N. And there's Fort Collins. Hi, Fort Collins. I miss you. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use an analysis tool to project these coordinates from decimal degrees into UTM coordinates so that our map looks a little more normal. And then we'll get to digitizing. So I'm going to go to Analysis ribbon. We're going to go into Tools. And next to Favorites, we're going to go into Toolboxes. And let's see here. We're going to go into Data Management Tools. And, oh, too far. We're going to go into Projections and Transformations. And under that, at the very bottom, there's this tool called Project. It allows us to take data that's projected one way and project it in a new way. So I'm going to take our coordinates decimal degrees, and I'm going to go ahead and name it coordinates UTM because we're going to convert it to UTM. And once you've put in a title here, go ahead and click this globe. And now our friend, the coordinate system window, is here. And we're going to have to navigate in projected coordinate systems down to UTM. And we're going to do NAD 1983, I believe. And you're going to find your zone 13N, our favorite zone. So once you have that selected, it shows up here, and you hit OK. And ARC knows what the geographic transformation is going to be. It's starting from geographic coordinate system from this, and it's converting it to the NAD 1983 version of UTM Zone 13. So we don't have to change the transformation information here. If your coordinates did not show up here in Colorado and it's giving you an error, the first thing to do is to go back to your Excel spreadsheet and make sure that you put in the minus sign, the negative sign, outside the parentheses for that X coordinate. Because if not, you may have shown up somewhere in Africa or out in the ocean, depending on that. And the second thing is to make sure that you entered each of those coordinates correctly the way that Rocky had them in the handout. So I'm right here in Colorado. I'm feeling good about this. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And now I have a UTM feature and a decimal degree feature, but my map still looks the same because remember, the map adopts the projection of the first thing that you bring into it. So I'm going to have to add this coordinates UTM to a new map. So a few ways to do this. I'm just going to go back over to catalog view. So if you need to, go to view, catalog view. And let's see here. I'm going to go into folders, lab 8. I'm going to open up the geodatabase, my lab 8 remote can. There's my UTM feature right there. If I right click it, I can say add to new map. So it's going to create a new map with my coordinates UTM in it. And let's see here. Add to new map. All right, so now my coordinates are in a brand new map and they are rectangularly shaped. the same way that our quad for Dead Man Park is. So I think now we're at a good point where we can bring in the data for Lab 8 and go ahead and start digitizing. So I'm just going to call this UTM. That's not super important. It just helps me keep track of things. And let's see here. I don't need that text message for y'all right now. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in the data for Lab 8. So since I'm on remote desktop, I can actually make a folder connection to the N drive and bring in the Lab 8 data that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.